and always will, is about moving humanity forward. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Hey, folks, the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing, forget about it. Bad Brad Berkwitt, and you're watching another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. Now, make sure you hit that button and subscribe. Leave comments below the video. I always personally respond to each and every person that leaves a comment that makes sense. Some of them may forget about it. But hey, as well, follow me on Twitter at BadBradRSR. Again, that's at BadBradRSR. Well, tonight, folks, I have a special guest. This is an exclusive interview because it's the first time this young man has ever done an interview after becoming an internet sensation in the last 7 days. So let me give you the introduction to him. Then I'm going to bring him on my show. My guest I was made aware of by my most recent guest, who sat with me for a wonderful 360 conversation over the weekend, and it was Mike Singleton. Check it out on my channel. Mike shared a video of a young man I found out was 20 years old and lived literally 20 minutes from Debbie and my front door in Winfield, Indiana. And when I talked to this young man, he said, "Do you really live in Winfield, Indiana?" I was like, why would someone lie about that? I don't even want to live here, but I got no choice because we have to live here for the time being. As well, when Mike shared the video, other social media, it went viral with him, and other social media influencers from there picked it up. The thing went bonkers. It has close to, and maybe over now, because I haven't looked at it in several hours, up to 2 million views on Twitter. It's amazing. And as well, he is a college student, and he has a lot to talk about on this show. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome again for his first show appearance on this exclusive 360 conversation, the one, the only, Adam Mockler. Forget about it. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to talk to you.
Absolutely. We're going to a lot of talking points, stuff about you, stuff about the video and other things. So we're going to run the gamut tonight. And I always start out like this with every single guest I've ever interviewed on my show for the last several years. If I have something wrong in my notes, say, "Hey, Brad, it's actually this." That doesn't bother me. I want my interviews to be as factually correct as they can be. Conversations, as I call them. So let's start out like this. We're going to start at the beginning. Off of your bio, well, first of all, as I said in the opening, 25 minutes tops from my front door. That's crazy that we would be that close in proximity. A lot of people, when I told them that, they couldn't believe it. Small world. But looking at your bio, it looks like your dad is Syrian. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, what you said, his family is devout Muslims and your mom is white Caucasian. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about growing up in a house where that was the dynamic.
Yeah, well, I feel like my grandpa's a pretty strict Muslim. My other grandpa's pretty chill. He was like a Catholic. He's an atheist now, I'd say. So my Muslim grandpa was always pushing me towards Islam and stuff. That was always a feud that we had in my life. But my mom sat me down pretty early on and said I could decide on what I want. I feel like that having those like differing views kind of shaped my worldview a lot in a way, just being able to like think about both sides. Because there's a reality where I just like probably gave into Islam and I'm probably a lot more boring version of myself, or where I just gave into Christianity and I'm just a lot more like watered down version of myself. But I don't know, it kind of gave me my edge at a young age, I feel like.
Okay. Now, you said in your bio, too, that about 10 years ago, which you're 20, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, about 10, you said you became an atheist. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was probably more like mindless at that time. I just thought it looked cool. But then, I mean, I guess I lucked into the correct position, right?
Okay. Well, just out of curiosity for the viewers, what kind of led you that way?
I'd say my uncle. I looked up to him a lot. He's like 12 years older than me. So at the time, he was probably 22. And he was super into like center-left atheist politics, stuff like that. And he would always talk to me about it. And I remember in like 5th grade, I had a teacher who was super Christian. And he used to always say weird things about like gay people and gay rights. And like how, I don't know, he just thought it was a sin. Of course, that's all he would say. He wouldn't go into it, of course. And I remember that kind of like opened my mind and made me realize like damn, a lot of these people are just pretty intolerant. And then from there I like reverse my way into like rationalizing it and figuring out why God's probably not real. Yeah.
Okay. Now you're currently a college student attending Indiana University Northwest in Gary. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But you're transferring soon to DePaul.
Yeah.
Okay. So question off of that, with your political views in a very, as you know better than me because you grew up here, I've only been here a couple of years, very red state in a very red area. I know Valpo has some liberal pockets in there, but they still have the MAGA people. I've seen MAGA rallies on the street corner where all the restaurants are. I think you said Lincoln Way is the street name.
Yeah.
What, with your opinions and students on campus, any beef, any problems, or you finding more people that are from other areas that believe like you do?
I mean, all throughout high school, political arguments were a thing. So like 80% of people around me, especially like the dudes in my grade, were usually pretty conservative. So I mean, there were feuds where I'd argue with people, especially like around election time. I remember the 2020 election. I was at like a house party and we got a little drunk and this Trump supporter and I like got into it. We were just talking or whatever, but you know how it gets. And in college, it's been a lot better. I feel like in Gary, it's a lot more liberal. It's a lot more diverse. Everyone there is a lot more chill. And I'm sure Chicago will be even more so, you know? So yeah, I have definitely had some run-ins living in Indiana, but I feel like if anything that gave me the confidence to like, I don't know, go to a Trump rally and feel comfortable. Like I know these people, I've heard all these things before. I know how to counter them and not get emotional.
That you do, and we're going to talk about that video here in a little bit. Want to read something to you. You call yourself, you said in your interview a little bit earlier ago, center left liberal, and said in your bio you went through your Bernie Sanders phase. Then you turned 18 and realized that pragmatism and incrementalism are way more effective than the radical politics Sanders likes, even though the policies sound really cool. And I know they do sound really, really cool to a lot of people your age. But then when they realize that, you know, at least I'm 55, realize how are we going to pay for all these things, even though, you know, I know Bernie is always with the top 1%, the top one, which drives me nuts. But, you know, I know they sound cool in theory, but then implementing them is another thing. So I'm curious, what originally attracted you to Bernie and then flipped you from Bernie? Like you said, you realized a little bit older that, yeah, sounds good in theory, but maybe implementing them is another thing.
Did you go through a Bernie phase too where you liked him?
No.
Oh, you did?
I
No.
never liked him. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some things I do agree on healthcare, but some of the other things, like I said, he drives me nuts with the top 1%. I believe in paying your fair share, but I don't think the top 1%, just my opinion, has to pay for the other 99%. And he wants billionaires at a certain point. Again, pay your fair share. Absolutely. I agree with President Biden 100%. But he wants them at some point to pay 90 cents on every dollar. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. But even Chris Wallace, when he was interviewing him a couple of weeks ago, was like, really? You really believe that? But
yeah, people always say the progressives are really good at identifying problems, but their prescriptions are always just terrible, I feel like. And that applies to Bernie too. I feel like AOC as well. But when I was like 15 or 16 and he was running, I guess everything he said sounded cool. I guess he has a whole like populist vibe with him where he's like one of us. It's like he's not part of the establishment. He's kind of like similar to Trump in that way. And it's really easy to fall into that when you're young. A lot of people my age also like fall into like the populist anti-establishment thing. And that's also something I want to pull people out of my age, because a lot of my friends who are even smart and left-leaning are just so into like populist anti-establishment stuff that I hear them like entertaining the idea of RFK Jr. or whatever, just because RFK Jr. is anti-establishment. So that's part of the reason why I kind of want to like get into the space and, you know, market my own brand of politics. But you asked also how I got pulled out of that. I guess just paying more attention to politics, doing the research on what actually works, and learn if I'm figuring out like the word incrementalism, like I said in that said in that document, is really important. So that things slowly happen, and these like radical policies where we change it all at once usually never get passed and don't work. And Biden also changed my mind a bit. He's been really good at doing these little small policies, these deals with, for a while he had a 50-50 Senate, and he was able to get all of these things passed. Even one of the bills, I think like 20 Republicans voted
Yeah,
for.
bipartisanship, infrastructure.
Yeah, so he recognizes the importance of like creating bridges, you know, and having like a big tent is what he says. And I really respect that. And Bernie was just not able to create that tent. And Elizabeth Warren is also a little bit too radical. Not, I don't like the word radical because Republicans, but she's also able to identify all of these problems with like wealth distribution and college and everything. But then her prescriptions are just terrible, and it's just like they're not pragmatic. Yeah.
Right, and I agree with you. It's like, for example, I'm more centered. I'm blue. I'm true blue. I'm a liberal on
Yeah.
all social issues, and I'm more conservative with the spending stuff. But like you said, they come up with these ideas, but implementing it is another thing. It's like the defund the police. That was the worst slogan they could have ever said, and President Biden got stuck with it. Good thing he made a stance, said, no, that's not what I'm for. I'm for, retraining, or however he said it, the police, and I am too. But defunding the police, that was a ridiculous slogan. It did come from the far left. The one thing I will say, because I always get hit on, AOC and the squad, but this is the one thing I will say in defense of them. I don't agree with a lot of things that they say, but I do stand up for them on this one, because a lot of people on the right hit me on it. Say, you may not like their progressive views, but they're not trying to destroy democracy like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or Paul Gosar or Matt Gaetz. They're not screaming crap when the State of the Union is going on and acting a fool. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't know if you saw the clip today, banging the gavel down, asking for decorum. And I'm going to curse. If you want to curse, you can curse on the show. That's fucking bullshit. Gaveling down decorum from Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, if that's not hypocrisy. So you and I are probably going to get along really, really well, because we see, even though there's a 35 years difference in age, we see quite a bit eye to eye. I like that. That's great. I want to read something to you, then we'll talk about it on the other side. You said in high school you had a deep desire to be a filmmaker for about 10 years. Your passion is to create a series that weaves filmmaking and real interactions. Well, that is a statement that leads me into what caused me to reach out to you and book you on my show. Your fantastic, almost 11-minute video that Mike Sinkton, a buddy of mine, posted on, retweeted on Twitter, and from there it just went bonkers. And like I said, I think in open, I think it's close to 2 million views now, and it deserves it. And what I want to ask you is, what made you want to go to a MAGA rally to get on video the insanity of what can only be called the cult of Trump? And let me stop here for a second before you answer that. I don't want to. I call them idiots. I do, but I don't want to start calling them names. Stuff like that. I'm not saying you are. I want to get into their mindset for the viewers, because I know how I feel, but I know some people say that do these type of videos like you, that you see things that you don't always see in these, 1 minute clip, 30-second clip, the insanity, and you might have seen something and maybe you didn't, but I want to give you the opportunity to speak on it. But first thing is, what made you want to go and do this?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do something like this for a while. I mean, I see a lot of people doing similar things. Like, people are comparing me a lot to Jordan Klepper, but I just feel like I don't really like his style as much. I feel like I want to do it my own way. I know that you like him, but I feel like there's a way where you can talk to these people without being condescending and without seeming like the average, like, pretentious liberal, like actually trying to get through to them. Like that one purple shirt dude in my video, I actually was able to talk to him, and he actually conceded, like, yeah, you should be able to get gender affirming care. And then that one older guy who's a little scruffy looking also conceded, like, yeah, these people should be arrested. So these conversations are possible. And there's also, I don't know if you've ever seen Channel 5. He did some really good work, Andrew Callahan, but he doesn't really push back at all. He just stands there and lets them like hang themselves, and then edits it ironically and stuff. So I wanted to find like a good mix of, actually talking to them. And I think the next one I'm going to amp up like the whole filmmaking aspect. I'm going to add some really cool stuff, but I'm also going to maintain the genuine conversations,
And that's what I enjoy. And also like the fact that you let them talk, but you also came back with facts, like the percentage of I forget what it was. It was like 0.5 He said it was 1.5, and then he said it was like 20%, and he
Yeah.
came back. And the funny, I can't stand her, but what I did like about it is she was saying, the lady that you and I talked offline with the nice truck, and she wasn't a hillbilly. She was not one of them straight up, two teeth hicks or whatever they want to say, or the boner garage for Trump and all that crazy stuff, or the typical. I'm not trying to be mean, but the typical bleach blonde that are at these rallies that just say the most crazy stuff. She was saying the quiet stuff out loud. When you were talking to her and you were like, she's like invoking Martin Luther King's name. I'm like, really? And then when she said, and this because my better half is African American, this drove me nuts. When she said, well, yeah, slavery, well, they fed them and they weren't, she was like making it sound like they were employees. And the thing is, and you know this, that's a lot of people in this area too, that they think like this. They may not all say it out loud, and definitely may not say it on camera. But she said the quiet part out loud. And she meant what she said, even when you said, let's go back to the car and smoke some weed. That was pretty funny too. And I love how she said how people, and I've been around people who smoke weed my whole life. I don't smoke weed, but I've been around enough people in high school and around that the way she described them made them sound like they were on meth, and that's not true. The way she did, like they were losing their mind. They were losing their mind to go eat some Fritos. I mean, that was some crazy talk. But you let her talk. You did let her talk, and you counted her. It was a good balance. So I do like your style. I commend you there. And I'm gonna tell you, do your own thing. If that's what you're comfortable doing, that's where you're gonna find your success. Always find your own niche. Don't try to be like anybody else. Be like you. And if people don't like it, still be like you. I'm the same way. If they don't like it, they don't like it. Then they'll turn you off 2 minutes into your video, or they'll subscribe to your channel and they'll love what you're doing. The other thing I want to ask you, you told me a story offline I want to get into. So the mother of the blonde guy who was at the end, that was an expert on 2 genders, and he had a very annoying voice, bless his heart, contacted you, and I know that you got, because I already asked this, verbal consent of the people that you had on camera, which is how you do this. I've done this before too. And you get consent. I've gotten it in writing. Contacted you and wants you to put the video down, take the video down?
Yeah, so, I mean, so David Pakman, you know David Pakman at all?
No, don't know that name.
He's a political commentator on YouTube, and he's the first one to signal boost the video after I posted it. He's got almost 2 million subscribers, and he posted it on Facebook too. And I know that got like 1 million views on Facebook. And apparently it must have gone around in some Iowa circles, and the kid's mom must have seen it. And she emailed David Pakman asking to take it down because her son was a minor, and she tried to frame it as if we were interviewing minors on gender identity. She was trying to make it into some weird thing that it wasn't. And luckily, by the grace of God, we had a video of him saying he was 19 years old in college, because we actually we would talk to them a bit first to try to disarm them and stuff. So we were asking by saying your name and your age and what you do, blah, blah, blah. It basically gives us consent to use this. So we had verbal consent. We had everything we needed. And David Pakman pushed back and told her, we know your son's not 17. We even found his LinkedIn. It just says 19. This was the most poorly thought out lie ever. And apparently after a little bit of pushback, she crumbled. And I've been still waiting for her to message me on something. But David was messaging me about it, saying he was giving me his opinion, his non-lawyer opinion. He was saying on what the legality of this is. And he's been a lot of help to me. But that was super interesting. I thought that was really funny. Yeah, I was kind of waiting for the day that the video would get back around to one of the people in it,
Okay. And did you have a story that you want to talk on camera about going there? Something happened?
Not really. I mean, most of the crazy moments we caught on camera.
I thought you said did you get pulled over or something?
Oh, there's a ton of funny random shit that happened. On the way there, I was smoking a joint in my car, and luckily I was going through Illinois, and this cop pulled me over, and he did give me his ticket for speeding, and then he gave me a warning because I had an air freshener on my thing. He told me he was obstructing. He was a little bit of an asshole about it. And then right when we got to the rally, we were setting up the equipment, and this dude comes up to us. He's pretty short, and he's got this huge Bible in his hand. And he's asking us what news organization we're with. We're telling him we're with independent media or whatever. And we ask him what he's doing with this Bible. He says he's going to try to sneak past secret security or whatever and give it to Trump, or Secret Service and give it to Trump.
Right.
And we were super confused. He was really interesting character. We tried to interview him, but by the time we got the camera set up, he said he had to go. And he probably cried when the rally got canceled because he never got to give his Bible to Trump. But
Okay.
yeah.
Did you get any negative feedback or anybody aggressive towards you at the rally?
Yeah, I mean, some dude yelled in the background of one shot. He was like, "Hey, get that damn camera off me!" And he was like being a little, and then we just like moved the camera. But no, everyone is pretty nice. I've been saying that if we went closer to January 6th, we probably would have gotten our asses beat if we would have been saying that stuff. But the fact that everything's kind of cooled down over the past 2 years, 2 or 3 years, I think helps a lot, you know?
Okay. Was there anything during the shoot that really surprised you that you didn't see coming?
Yeah, we got rained out. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
We got rained out pretty hard. Yeah, well, no, I'm not gonna cuss, but we got rained out and we had to stay under a tent for like 2.5 hours of it. That actually fucked up our footage a lot, to be honest. We had like 3 or 4 hours planned to shoot, and yeah, we had to spend half of it under a tent, and that's part of the reason why the rally got canceled. So all of the interviews we put in the video were literally all of the interviews we got. Like we didn't even have any like room to cut anything because that's all the footage we got. And we keep telling ourselves, like my cameraman keeps saying, if we go to a full rally, we have like 5 or 6 hours to shoot. We're gonna have some amazing content, some amazing moments.
Okay. I want to read. I don't know if you know who. Do you know who Frank Fagluzzi is?
No.
Okay. Well, he was with the FBI for 25 years,
Mhm.
and he was the assistant director of counterintelligence. He's also an MSNBC analyst, and does a lot of shows. He's usually on with Nicole Wallace, but he's Stephanie Rule, you name it, he goes on. He's a friend of mine. He's been on the show a couple times. He's got two questions that I want to ask on his behalf to you. First, how many MAGA people did you encounter who are true believers in the conspiracy theories versus just along for the ride, fun, or sense of belonging?
That's a good one. I feel like the Iowa lady was definitely actually on some deep QAnon shit. She was deep into it.
Was that the blonde?
No, she was the lady who was talking about Trump is still president and the white hats
Oh,
are
yeah,
controlling
yeah.
Biden
Yes.
just to
Yep.
make
The white hats. The white hats.
yeah, she was in some deep shit. But it's really interesting how like with the slightest bit of pushback, you can kind of get them to concede some stuff. And I do get what he was trying to say with like a lot of people are just on the ride, it feels like, right? Like the one scruffy dude, like I mentioned, and the one dude at the beginning, they're all pretty chill. Like the one dude was even saying he's completely live and let live when it comes to trans people, but then he somehow still is on the whole Republican ride and votes for these people who enact anti-trans legislation. So there's a really interesting like difference going on. I'd say like, I don't know, 70% of the people there are probably pretty deep into like some shit and you can't really talk them out of it. But there's a portion there that are reasonable that you can like ration with, you know?
Okay. And the second question that Frank has is, how many did you meet who, in your opinion, appeared to be capable of violence on behalf of Trump?
Let me think about that. Let me run through all the people we met. Most of them were pretty docile and we could just like not manipulate them, but we could get them into like telling us stuff pretty easily. But there were 3 or 4 people there that were either a little bit belligerent and were yelling stuff, or were a little bit bigger dudes who looked like they didn't have their stuff together.
But I think what Frank was asking is, though, that might have the propensity to do to January 6th again, like violence, that type of violence. Not so much attacking you and your cameraman, but actually going out and, you know, if he's the candidate, if he's the, you know, the nominee,
Yeah.
and saying it's rigged again, going back to the Capitol or whatever Trump wants them to do. Did you see anybody that you felt maybe had propensity for violence again like that?
No, I mean, you don't really know until they do it, but I feel like most of them, if you push back a little bit on that, the ones that wouldn't say that that was the Democrat deep state, they would admit that that was pretty stupid of the people. Like that one dude, pretty, like with some really, really, really fast pushback, he immediately admitted that everyone there should have been arrested and that, yeah, Like if you pull out the personal responsibility card with them, they immediately you got to use like their rhetoric a little
Right.
bit. They'll admit that yeah, they should.
I love when a guy said to you about having a Woody at 13. I never had a
Yeah,
Woody. I'm 55. I haven't heard Woody like in 30 years. And he said, if you had a Woody, you wouldn't know what to do with it. Okay. The other observation I had in your video, I was looking in the background. Did they have a couple African American vendors selling Trump stuff?
yeah. Actually, when it was raining for 2.5 hours, we huddled under. I wouldn't say it was raining. It was raining for like 2 hours of the rally. We huddled under this vendor, and the lady was African American, and she was super super sweet. And actually, really interesting story. Her job is basically following around Trump rallies and just selling merch there. There's a whole marketplace where people follow Trump around and they sell his merch. It's super
Are they
interesting.
Trump supporters? Or are they just
Yeah,
making money?
I I mean, most of them are probably Trump supporters, but I'd assume there's a few grifters there. Like one of the dude that was yelling, "Don't get me on camera," he was probably like a grifter or something that just didn't want to be seen there. But no, people follow him around and their whole job is just going to his rallies and selling his merch. And he lets that happen, I guess.
Okay. You're considered part of Gen Z, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So people my age, 55 and older, needing to understand the most about Gen Z in your opinion, give us a lesson. Give us some, facts about Gen Z that we may not understand or what we need to know.
Um, I think it's easy for a lot of Gen Z to feel disenfranchised and like the system's against you. I feel like that's a really common thing for young people to feel. There's a lot of truth to it too. I mean, America does have a lot of oppressive structures in place, but I think I think we're gonna do pretty well. I think we're mostly liberal, and I think everyone's gonna start to mediate, and I think we're gonna get some good stuff done. I don't know. I don't know any specific insights into Gen Z, other than all of my friends are just super into like anti-establishment populist stuff. Like it's super hard to find a Gen Z person who is like, I don't know, like center left. That's
Okay.
pretty rare. But yeah, that's pretty natural with young people. So don't give up on us, I feel like.
Okay. With you having loved politics for a very long time, what goes through your mind when you see an ex-president like Trump lie about winning an election, then grifting money off of it, and then trying to tear down our institutions and democracy in the same swipe?
Yeah, having a sitting president saying that shit was absolutely insane. And I feel like it was super destructive to our political environment. All the stuff that I could say. I just feel like watching today what happened in Congress with Marjorie Taylor Greene and stuff just shows like the erosion of our political norms in general. And a lot of that started with Trump, and a lot of that was amplified during his whole election fraud and stuff like that. Just like a total erosion of facts and norms and everything. And I don't know, it's pretty disappointing. And
And him being ex-president doing this, because we've never had in my lifetime ever had an ex-president, Republican or Democrat, carry on like this, like he's been every day. It's something with Trump.
yeah, he's a little bit of an attention whore, you know.
A little bit.
It feels like even did you see his ad on Truth Social about DeSantis? That was low key a pretty good ad. I mean, he's effective at messaging, I guess. But yeah, I really think if I was a Republican strategist myself, I would have dropped the election fraud stuff months ago. But I guess Trump is just I guess it's his ego. He wants to
Yeah,
keep
it is.
pushing
It's his
tweets.
narcissism. It's his narcissism.
Yeah, he can't. I mean, he's always been big into, even in 2016, he said the primaries were rigged against him.
Yep.
Even after he won the election, he still said
Yep.
there were 3 million illegal votes
Yep.
was rigged against him. And then he does the same thing in 2020. He can just never concede when he loses. And I think that's also really harmful to have a president that does that. But yeah, the fact that we're like 2.5 years out of the election and he's still trying to stay this stiff, even when Bill Barr, like his best buddy, came out and was saying there's not enough evidence to overturn the election whatsoever. Like most of this is a lie. It's just, yeah, it's mind-boggling. And the fact that I know people that are still going to support him just because they're like ignorant, I guess, and they're just like they don't see it the same way I do is also mind-boggling. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. January 6th, when you saw that go down, as an American, as someone that studies politics and you're pretty well versed, especially for your age, What was going through your mind?
Yeah, we talked about it in school that week a lot. And I thought it was insane because one of the dudes that I always used to have beef with about politics was saying like this was like the Democrats rigging it or whatever. And I remember that was an interesting discourse. But yeah, it was insane. And it's a bunch of loons. I'm pretty sure they smeared shit on the wall too.
They know
And
they did. They
yeah,
did.
they're
I called it before they did it. I told Deb they're going to do it, and they did it.
yeah, people came in with zip ties, I don't even know do what. And then people at the rally actually were asking me. One of the ladies brought up Ashley Babbitt, who was the person that got shot in the neck.
Traitor. She's a traitor.
Yeah, and I argued we didn't get this one on camera because it was during the rain under the tent, but we argued about Ashley Babbitt for a bit, and they didn't even know that she was like rushing, and they thought she was like shot on the perimeter or something. Like
No,
it's just
she was rushing through the thing. I had a tweet that went viral because I called her a traitor and Occupy Democrats meet
mhm.
me, my quote, and then it went even more viral. And they want to make her. The problem is you have an ex-president who her mother's parading around like she's a hero. He calls in on a cell phone when they're out in front of the DC jail because those are political prisoners. Nelson Mandela was a political prisoner. The people from January 6th are not political prisoners. They're they're domestic terrorists. But yeah, Ashley Babbitt is their martyr. And Trump
Yeah.
at the town hall, he talked about Ashley Babbitt. He's made her a martyr. It's disgusting. Let's pivot to Ron DeSantis, who announced tonight in Twitter Spaces, and I heard it didn't go so well. Rudy Giuliani was one of the people there. They must have told him there was some free booze, so he was one of the people there, and he did it with Elon Musk, and now he's officially running for the Republican nomination against Trump. So, in your opinion, what do you think his chances are of getting the nomination?
I do not think he has a good chance. I mean, Trump is really strong electorally. And I actually, did you catch any of the Spaces meeting?
No, I was at dinner.
I caught like the latter half of it, and I saw some videos of his whole echo and malfunction part.
I read it.
Yeah, it's just listening to someone like DeSantis really makes you appreciate the charisma of other politicians. Even Trump, like when I'm listening to DeSantis, I'm like, wow, Trump is just way easier to listen to than this guy. This guy has no charisma at all. He reminds me of SpongeBob, you know, he's really just like soft and like jolly all the time. It's really like off-putting. But I don't see him doing well electoral. I know Trump just has like the whole Republican Party wrapped around his finger, and they're really good at getting in line when it comes election time. And I know they're going to do it. Probably going to nominate him unless he has some crazy mental health issues. Or I mean,
Or he goes, or they convict him and he goes to jail.
yeah, if he has health issues, or if he gets convicted. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I don't see him winning. I see it being Trump versus Biden again. Uh, yeah. What do you think? You think there's any chance of him beating him in the primary?
No, no. I think it's pathetic that anybody's even running. And if Mike Pence, as I call him, Mike Penis, he gets into the race, he's lucky if he wins the state of Indiana. That's how unpopular this guy is.
Yeah.
In fact, he couldn't win the nomination, Pence, and they'd give it to him. They'd find somebody else. No, I think it's going to be Trump, unless for the reasons like you said, medical or some of the loss, the criminal stuff against them. If Trump or DeSantis were to win the presidency, who do you think would be a worse president?
I think Trump would be a worse president just due to his lack of experience and his complete inability to control himself or even put people around him that are smart. But he's slimy in like a different way. You know, like he's a little bit more tactical. He's a little bit more into the culture issue stuff, so that would be pretty devastating. Trump maybe was a little bit more neutered when it came to like the LGBTQ stuff. So that would be rough. I think overall Trump would be more of a disaster. I mean, Trump getting elected again, I forgot who said it, would literally, I think Hillary Clinton said this, literally would be
Kill democracy.
it would literally kill our democracy.
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
Ron DeSantis would be kind of close, but I feel like at least there's coming back from that, and like maybe some sort of checks and balances would keep him in place.
Okay.
But yeah, I just don't see that happening.
Okay. What are two things in your opinion as a Democrat that you feel that the Democratic Party as a whole needs to do better?
Um, let's see. I don't like when Biden leans into some of the more populist rhetoric sometimes, even though I get that it's really popular and it helps win elections. So I guess it's needed. But a lot of times, like for example, with the student loan forgiveness, I don't know how you feel about that. But instead of attacking like the root issue of college and its cost, he tries to appeal to this whole populist facet on like Twitter and stuff of the Democratic Party by I don't know what you think about student loan forgiveness, but I feel like there's way more effective ways to go about it than what he was trying to do. I mean, his plan of $10,000 was actually really, really good. But I think Elizabeth Warren wanted to forgive like $50,000 of student loan forgiveness. And that's just not economically feasible at all. I mean, it's just a terrible policy. And I think Democrats need to stray away from terrible policies because we already have enough of that in our country with Republicans not even having an economic platform at all. Um, so yeah, probably stray away from the populism and elect someone younger. Probably, I mean that's the easy one. Elect someone younger. Uh, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Probably those two
Let
things.
me throw this one out to you. You made some valid points there. What do you think about term limits on a Supreme Court and in politics, period? I mean, the president's only 2 terms, but I'm talking about senators and congressmen
Yeah.
and a Supreme Court. A set, I don't know what, I won't say a number for the Supreme Court, how many years, but not life. Do you think they should change that if they could, the Supreme Court not being for life?
Um, yeah, for life is a little bit too much. I feel like obviously then you run into issues like what happened with RG or
RPG.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Yeah, and yeah, I do think term limits are needed to some extent. I don't really know exactly what the solution to that is. I feel like nobody really knows. I think that's still pretty hot, like a hot debate right now. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
And what about term limits on congressmen and senators?
Yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay. As well, what do you think about the Electoral College? Abolishing it or keep it?
No, I've never been for abolishing it, but I feel like we should fix it so that it represents the states more. I feel like, well, I guess, yeah, there's a weird imbalance in it right now, of course, but I don't think abolishing it is the way to go. I think that's a little bit short-sighted, unless like we have a way better plan. You think we should just go with the popular vote?
I do. I actually do. And what I use for an example is we do it in everything else. Congress, Senate races, it's all popular vote. Now I know they're going to say, well, there's more Democrats than there are Republicans. Well, you know what? Then step up your game. You know, I've said this before, and I've said this on camera. You know, the Republicans had a very big shot of if they would have dumped Trump in 20 once he lost, said that's it. We're going to become a party, become inclusive instead of exclusive. They can still have their pro-life stance. I'm pro-choice. They can still have some of their conservative stances. I mean, that's what their party is based, but be more inclusive of the LGBTQ, of African Americans, women, and women and different things. And even if they're pro-life, having exceptions because they want, as you know, they want women to have nothing. They want to tell you that a 10-year-old girl being raped or molested, it's a blessing to have a child. I believe that was Kristi Noem who said that, the governor, I forget what state she's from, but that's just insanity. But they had an opportunity, but you said this earlier, Trump owns the party. It's not even a Republican Party anymore. Trump owns it, lock, stock, and barrel. And what's going to be fun to watch, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, is that if DeSantis does get the nomination and Trump, I do not believe for 1 second Trump is going to say, okay, I concede, I'm going to back him because we need a Republican Party. He's going to put it in the bag for President Biden because he's going to go against DeSantis and take his ball and go home, and he's going to take all those MAGA voters and tell them like he did in 20 with the runoff. Remember what he did with Ossoff and Warnock? He told them don't vote, and they didn't vote. They basically didn't vote. They listened to him.
This is going to be a bloodbath. Yeah, that's going to be hilarious. I'm excited to see more Trump versus DeSantis. Yeah.
Absolutely. What is in the future? I know you said you want to do another rally. What is in the future for us to see?
We have some ideas on how to push the envelope. I've been talking with my cameraman a lot, and we have some, I don't know how into specifics I can go, but one of my big goals is to just in general cover the 2024 election and cover the divide between DeSantis and Trump. I mentioned that a little bit in my video, but that's something I want to cover as it goes down, because not only do I think it's ripe for content, I mean, we could just like abuse the fuck out of that and make so much content of it, but also it's just so interesting, and it's going to be a huge moment for the Republican Party in politics. I mean, we're going to see like which direction they're going to go. It's pretty clear which direction they're going to go, but then I want to cover Trump versus Biden, if that's what it ends up being. So the future of my content is to cover the election. And if you want to know about short-term stuff, my cameraman and I were texting earlier today about a pride rally that is going on and some counter protesters that might be there, interviewing both sides. But with a hint of filmmaking in there. So like some cool little stuff. But yeah, it's basically that.
Okay. Last question I want to ask you is, if you have a message or hope for humanity, what would it be?
My message or hope for humanity? Damn, that's a deep question. For a 20-year-old, I feel like I would
But
say
you're a
that
sharp 20-year-old, so you're going to answer.
I appreciate it. I feel like my whole goal with this was to show that discourse is possible, that you can go to these Trump rallies and talk to these people, and a lot of times get through to them, even though not always. I think with the slavery lady, I could have done a better job getting through to her. I actually have some ideas on how I could approach someone similar next time I go. Obviously, it's a learning process, but discourse is possible, and I want to humanize these people a bit. Even though I think I failed to do that in my first video, it's really interesting. I was telling everyone I know about how after I got back from the rally, I feel like it really humanized Trumpers for me, because a lot of the times when you're scrolling through Twitter, everyone's being really vitriolic and they're like, fuck these people, they're the scum of the earth, they're better off dead or whatever. And then you go and you talk to them and you're looking them in the eye and they're just like normal human beings, like purple shirt guy who just wanted like everyone to love each other and wanted like his family to be safe. And then when I posted the video online, there was a lot of the vitriolic stuff again. People clipped slavery lady and there were a lot of comments like wishing for her death or whatever, saying like she'll be dead soon, which I completely understand. I mean, she has some pretty backwards worldview. She's a pretty.
She was a racist. I mean, she's a racist. I mean, you can't say anything but. I've never heard anybody put it in a context out loud saying what she did, basically like they should be thrilled. And then when she said about if they would just listen and not be around their group, so they're supposed to listen to this old rusty, crusty old white woman who really would be a plantation owner back in the day.
Yeah, she was she's definitely a terrible human being, definitely. And yeah, but with some of the other people, I guess my goal is to show that discourse is possible and also expose people like her. That's also one of my goals, of course. That was a great moment. But to show that you can get down to like the core of their beliefs and try to mine away at that, and hopefully to spread some talking points to people my age. So people that are like 18, 19, 20, 21, like if they're in college, now they have better talking points, hopefully. If I can do that, then I've succeeded.
Okay. I want to close out with a couple comments and then I'm going to give you back the mic to close out completely. Again, I've talked to you offline. You got access to me now. Any way that I can help you, mentor you, whatever knowledge I have that can help you, I'm definitely willing to do it, because you are future. You did a hell of a job for the first time. I'm very impressed with you. And I know some very powerful people in the industry that were very impressed because I sent your video to them and they were like, wow, it was, even your reactions. I mean, even some of the facial expressions, which was funny because in your mind, you're like, holy shit, but you kept your composure. You probably did better than what I do, because I'm like, oh my God, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
But you did well, and you did well for you're welcome for being 20 years old. Definitely keep doing this. I think you have found a niche. Do it your way. I commend you. And like I said, if you need any help my way, let me know. Remember, when you blow up completely, that I was the first one to ever have you on their show. I reached out before MSNBC and whoever else is probably eventually going to have you on. But with that said, Anna, I want to give you back the microphone, close out with anything you want.
Yeah, like I told you, I'll come back for an in-person interview because we're 25 minutes away. We're going to do that someday for sure, because I'll be back in Valpo a ton. But yeah, thank you for having me. Check out my channel, youtube.com/@AdamMockler.
I was just say, give me social media. Yep, go ahead.
My
Give
Twitter.
it one more time. Give it one more time.
youtube.com/@AdamMockler. My Twitter is just Adam Mockler with 2 R's. I'm sure that we'll be retweeting each other a lot. And yeah, I guess talk to people and don't just fire off tweets on the internet, because it's really easy to get caught up in that storm. I mean, I've done it too. I've spent so much time on Reddit and Twitter just being like an absolute prick and arguing with people, and I call people names and stuff. And there's a time and a place for that. But there's also a time and a place for healing in this country and discourse. And I forgot, someone made a really good tweet earlier. I think it was Mehdi Hassan was saying that like at some point we're gonna have to move forward and we're gonna have to start like talking to each other. And I don't know, that resonated with me. And then also, yeah, expose racists too. That's a big part. Yeah.
Now you're preaching to my heart. Definitely expose them. All right. Well, like I said, keep in touch. Maybe we could hit a protest or something like that around here, and because there's not too many here. I wouldn't mind protesting down at Mike Pence's house, but I'd have to find out the legality and all of that, because he'd call Secret Service and I'd be hauled off to prison. I'm trying to catch him at a book rally to try to protest them, because I can't stand them. Just out of curiosity, what do you hear? What do your generation or your age group think of Pence?
No, nobody likes Pence. I don't think. Even people in Indiana, I'm pretty sure nobody likes Pence at all. But yeah, thank you for hosting me for my first time, man. I think my goal going into this was just have it go better than Governor DeSantis's presidential announcement.
And it did.
Yeah, I don't think there was any echo at all. And I don't think Elon Musk wasn't here, so that's a big plus too.
You got that right. Yeah. All right, all right. You have a good night, and again, stay in touch, brother.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Have a great night. Bye.
Bye. Folks, that's another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report Web TV channel. Adam's first exclusive 360 look at him. Bright young man, bright future ahead of him. We're going to be staying in touch. I'm glad that he's going to continue with these videos, because he did a great job on his first one. I'm going to put a link in the information box on my YouTube channel to his video. So you just click it and you'll be able to see it and watch the whole thing, and share it, and leave comments on the video, and subscribe to his channel. All right, folks, these are the type of guests that I'm going to bring on the show that are moving humanity forward and fighting for democracy. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad out. Thank you for watching the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Please follow, subscribe, leave comments, forget about it, and move humanity forward.